What up, ninjas? What up, ninjas? If motivation is the push, then inspiration is the pull. I love that saying. If motivation is the push, then inspiration is the pull. Now, if you think about any submission, right? Any submission in Jiu-Jitsu requires three things. A push, a pull, and an angle, right? A push, a pull, and an angle. If you took any one of those three things out, it doesn't really work. Think like an armbar from the guard, right? It requires a push and a pull. When I go to squeeze the armbar, I got to pull back and drive my hips up. There's my push and my pull. But if I did it straight on, like in their guard, like I'm not going to be able to get my legs over the head. There's no angle. So I'm not going to be able to align my body the right way to finish the technique. And I'm not going to be able to maximize the leverage. And if I'm not maximizing the leverage, I now have to use strength. Okay, see how that works? So every submission requires a push, a pull, and an angle. If you take one of those elements out, it doesn't work. I take out the push, and I'm just pulling the arm, but I don't have any counter leverage. It's not going to work. If I pull and I don't push, it doesn't work, and vice versa. And if I don't have that angle, it's not going to work. So if we take out any of those three elements, the submission begins to fall apart. Now let's start to equate that to life. Push and pull. Motivation is the push, inspiration is the pull. Sometimes I need to be pushed so that I can move forward. That's going to happen all the time in Jiu-Jitsu, and it's not always going to be comfortable. The push and the pull could be your training partners pushing you in class, making the rolls harder, right? That's the push, that's the motivation, right? It might not even feel like motivation sometimes because you're being worked so hard that you actually misinterpret it not as motivation, but as like, oh man, it's failure. Like I'm not doing well, right? Because someone's pushing me and it's hard for me. I feel like I'm failing. So maybe you misinterpret what motivation even is. But maybe you do have motivation. Maybe you accept being pushed. You're like, yeah, I love being pushed. But I'm not inspired by anything. There's no inspiration. So on the days that I train and I do well, it feels great because I'm motivated. I got that push, maybe internally or externally, right? But on the days I don't feel good, I don't have the push anymore because I'm not motivated. So that's a problem. What's inspiration? To be inspired. The original word actually means to be divinely guided. So it's bigger than you, right? Bigger than you. So if you think like, if you're a white belt, a black belt is bigger than you. A brown belt's bigger than you, right? A purple, a blue belt's bigger than you. So you make that your goal. That's your inspiration, is to be a blue belt or a purple belt or a brown belt or a black belt someday. But you're like, I'm not about the belts. I don't care about the belts. I just care about learning. Well, the belts actually equate to learning because they actually mean something. There's value in the belts because it's symbolic of your progression and how you're doing. So don't get lost in that. And if that is like not your thing, if you're like, well, I don't care about the belts, I just care about learning, that's it, then make that your thing. I want to progress because I know when I'm doing better that I'm progressing and getting better. That's my inspiration. I look at the people in front of me that are better and more experienced than me, and they inspire me because I want to be like them. So when I train with people and they do really well, or I see them rolling and I'm like, man, that girl's really good, man. Like that technique is awesome, or wow, that's so cool what they can do with their body. So I let that be my inspiration. That drives me, that guides me, it pushes me forward. Your professor is a great person to inspire you, right? Like they've been there, done that. Like they've done things you haven't even done yet. They're a black belt, you're not yet. So that could be pretty inspiring for you. Maybe ask them, like, what are some of the challenges that they faced, right? What are things that have inspired them over the years, right? Get some feedback from your coaches and your trainers and your more experienced students in your school. If motivation is the push, inspiration is the pull. That inspiration is going to pull you and move you forward. But sometimes you need that little bit of a push too. Think of it like when you're rolling physically, right? Someone grabs and pulls and you pull back in the other direction, right? Now it's a pulling in one direction, pulling in the other direction, right? It's a tug of war. If I meet resistance with more resistance, right? I have to use strength now to meet resistance with resistance. And maybe I'll win that battle, but if I'm smaller or the person's bigger, I'm probably not going to win that. So I don't meet resistance with more resistance. I meet it with angles and opportunities. Angles and opportunities. I'm in the guard. If I pull the arm and I try to force an armbar, I'm not going to get it. But if I begin to turn my hips, I can create more space and more opportunities. So I have that push and that pull, but I also need the angle too. But if I simply meet resistance with resistance, I'm just going to get more resistance. I'm not going to move forward. I'm not going to progress. I'm not going to get better. But sometimes when they pull, maybe I do pull a little bit harder than them. Okay, I call this building steam, right? Like they pull, I pull, I pull, and then maybe I relax. And then what happens? Boom, they're going to move forward or they're going to move backwards. Or maybe I meet resistance with more resistance. I'm building steam. It's getting stronger and stronger. And then I turn the body. And what happens? They move forward, right? That's a really simple, basic example of how to meet resistance with resistance to build steam. And building steam, I mean, the more that they pull, the harder I pull. That makes them want to pull even harder. So then when I release the pressure, it's going to all move in one direction. But if I don't have a way to release the pressure and I just keep meeting resistance with resistance, something's going to break. Someone's going to get hurt. Somehow that steam has to be released. Just like in life. Motivation is the push. Inspiration is the pull. But you have to have that outlet to release that, all of that, right? And so jiu-jitsu can be a path for that. You can be pushed by your teammates. You can be pushed by your coaches. Heck, you should be pushed by yourself. And ultimately, that's kind of where you want to get to, right? To the point where you're your own best coach. You can push yourself forward and you can inspire yourself. You don't have to rely on everybody around you, and you don't have to rely on these emotional states. Like, if I'm not doing well, I need to try harder. Really? Is it always about trying harder? They're pulling, you need to pull harder, try harder? But that's kind of ingrained into us, right? Like 110%, go to try harder, beat my chest. And that can work. Like if you're a big, strong person, meeting resistance with resistance probably will work for you. But if you're not bigger, I'm not like that big, it's definitely not going to work for me in the long run. It's going to probably break me ultimately, like physically, because that's going to be taxing on my body in the long run. I'm not being efficient with my training, and I'm not being very ninja-like. And part of that too is maintaining that face, that putting on that mask sometimes, right? Like you don't need to spill out every emotion. Like if you're having a tough time rolling, you don't need to get yourself all psyched up. Don't let your partner know that you're having a tough time. Don't get in all this crazy trying harder physically or mentally and emotionally too, right? I always think I want to be like Spock. I want to be emotionless when I'm rolling. I don't need to psych myself up. I don't need these constant highs and lows. I try to stay in the middle. I'm not letting my partner know when I'm exhausted or when I'm not exhausted, unless I'm just doing that to trick them, right? Like I'm not trying to let them know that I'm not giving up everything. I'm trying to keep my poker face. I'm not trying to give up every move, unless I'm trying to give up every move. So if motivation is the push and inspiration is the pull, you can allow your teammates to be that circle around you that's going to strengthen and push you forward. But ultimately, you need to be your best coach, your own best coach, and your own best professor. Don't rely on your professor to have to give you high fives all the time and tell you that you're doing a good job. You need to do that internally, and that's going to strengthen you on so many different levels and make you a better student too, and a more coachable student to yourself, and that's invaluable. All right, ninjas, that was a fun talk. Yeah, make sure you're checking in on our websites. Make sure you're going to bjjafter40.com. Make sure you're following us on Instagram and hitting the subscribe button on YouTube and going in our Facebook. I put different content everywhere, so make sure you're following all of it. I love talking to you guys. If you got questions or comments, put them in the comment thing down below. Awesome, guys. Keep training hard. Stay the course, ninjas. Os.